after from my cohorts. For any questions, just to write them down or keep them in mind till the end. I also have my wife here today. She's in the back videotaping with her phone. My mother beside her and her boyfriend, and my supervisor, Mark Henderson. Okay, so the description of the research project, I first wanted to kind of tell you how I came up with which project I wanted to do. I originally had about 10 different ideas on what to implement on, and I met with Mark to go through the different ones to see what was feasible to complete within the 1 year. And that narrowed it down to about 2 objectives, or 2 ideas that I could go with. I then met with Roger, who sat with me and went through the different options, and after meeting with him, I decided to do it on vacation coverage. The setting of the ARP, or Applied Research Project, was at UPS in the collections department. UPS is a worldwide company that's been around for about 100 years, a little bit over 100 years. And they've been operating in the Moncton Accounting Center for 20 years. So the task environment, there's 3 separate spots. There's the inputs, which are the outstanding invoices that UPS Collections has to collect on. They can either make calls or send emails, and once they receive responses, respond back to them. And the main function would be to improve the day sales outstanding. Now what the day sales outstanding is how long it takes a customer to pay their bills. And then the output would be for the customers to actually pay the bills within the time frame that UPS selected for their terms. The current status is that some employees in the UPS Collections Department do not have vacation coverage. There's about 30 employees within that department, and if the customers aren't being contacted on a regular basis, it can delay the time that it takes for the customers to pay their bills. Okay, so the scope of the ARP is, what I wanted to do is have it implemented for 1 employee to start. And I wanted to do that so it would be obtainable within the 1 year period. There are 2 reasons why I believe vacation coverage is important. The first is to help reduce the day sales outstanding, which is how long it takes for customers to pay bills. And I also wanted to decrease the amount of stress for employees when it comes to trying to juggle vacation and going in and trying to come up with sometimes they're stressed because of the extra load that they have to come back to. So the next part is the literature review. I had about 4 or 5 different authors that I looked at. The 2 that really stood out for me was DeBloom and al. They discussed how health problems can generate if there's no rest periods or vacations. The author also tracked wellness of employees 2 weeks prior to vacation, during vacation, and 2 weeks after vacation to see what the effects were on those employees. And the results were, once the employees came back from vacation, 1 week prior to their vacation, they're at pre-vacation levels for the amount of stress on them. The author also failed to mention the level of vacation coverage those employees had, so that could have factored into when the level of stress was actually had during that time. The other author was, I have a hard time pronouncing this because I haven't heard it before, but Fennerol. He discussed the importance of developing a plan for vacations. He discussed about having standard workflows, routines, and work instructions for employees in a sense of a backup plan. Having backups can help with sick days, short-term leaves, and also turnover. So a backup is basically if employee A went on vacation, employee B would take some of the responsibilities for that employee. So employee A comes back, and also the reverse, so they kind of help each other during vacations. Just going to grab a drink here. So there's two objectives. The first one would be to reduce the amount of stress during vacation. So what I wanted to do was have the reduction to be around 10% for stress. And the second objective would be to reduce the day sales outstanding. I wanted it to be around 5 to 10% compared to if there was no vacation coverage. So what I planned for the intervention would be to have the planned intervention would be to evaluate the employee's trust. What I could do to do this would be to have a survey done of the 3 collections departments within UPS Moncton Accounting Center to evaluate what their level of resistance is to change, and also to survey the employee that would be going out on vacation, and I would be acting as their backup. The second step would be dependent on the first step. If there was resistance to the plan, there need to be steps put in place to help the employees accept the change. The next step would be to implement the backup plan, which I would act as the backup for the employee going out on vacation, and then to evaluate the effects on the DSO or day sales outstanding, and also the survey effects as well. Now the alternative intervention was pretty much the same thing as the original planned intervention. The first 2 steps were the same thing. I needed to do a survey to evaluate the amount of trust, see if any steps needed to be taken. The only difference would be the third step, where I would need to evaluate differently. So I would need to determine if there should be increased staff opposed to having a backup system. So there was 2 different ideas: either have a backup system or have increased staff to cover the vacations. So for the evaluation plan, I needed to analyze the data. I would need to come up with a system to find if the DSO is affected or day sales outstanding. Since my work tracks the information through the percent over 60 and 90 to help find the day sales outstanding, I'd be able to go through and analyze through this. The stress could be analyzed through the individual survey. Also, there were some limitations that I saw at this point. The one that I saw as being the most, one that I could foresee was having limits to access to information. Sometimes some information can be restricted, so I wasn't quite sure if I'd be able to maintain the information. To evaluate the day sales outstanding, I wanted to use the doubloon and all to find the information. So I needed to find 2 weeks prior, 2 weeks during, and 2 weeks after to evaluate the DSO or day sales outstanding of the vacationing person as well as myself, because I wanted to track my progress as well. Stress would be evaluated through the individual survey. So this is the results. I'm hoping it's big enough for everyone to see. For the implementation, I will have to say it didn't go as planned. I originally wanted to do someone that was going out on vacation. Unfortunately, by the time I realized this, it was in mid-November, and vacationing employees have a restriction for December, and I would have to wait to see what employees was going out on vacation next at the end of December to find out further vacations. So what I had to do was make up a decision if I had to go with someone in November or wait, and I decided to go with the first option. So the reason why I went with the first option was because if I waited till January, I might have to have put the applied research project off and not be here today, which I wanted to be here today. So this is the results. On here, it has a lot of different numbers that's above 1 and above 0 and below 0 and below 1. The way I determined these figures was I took an average first of all, and then I evaluated the difference from the average, and ideally it should be close to 0, which would signify that there was no effect of the day sales outstanding. And unfortunately, since the employee was on a leave of absence, I wasn't able to distribute the survey to that person, so I was unable to determine that portion. So despite the results from the implementation, I would still recommend the backup system for UPS collections. Some of the recommendations that the backup plan would be for the same department. So the same person from the same department would have the same experiences and be able to transition more easily. This would reduce the training time. And the backup should be spend their day split between their own work and the vacationing person's work. And this would allow the employee to find which objectives for that week needs to be done that week and what could be